Okay. And I'll still do an intro of who you are and reorient people to you
No worries.
whenever I post this episode. But audience, Jen and I have been discussing things for 33 minutes and she didn't realize I wasn't recording yet. I thought we were just doing a little pre-talk. But just to kind of catch people up, um well, where do you want to start with that?
I guess I just want two moms. We're here as two moms today. We're also licensed social workers, healers, in our own rights. But I want this conversation to help someone who's sitting with some of the same issues that we have and are dealing with regard to um suicide, trigger warnings for anyone who does not want to hear this, substance abuse, overdose, mom guilt. I just want it to help someone who may be struggling with those feelings of, well, what could I have done differently? Or I didn't do enough, I should have, kind of thing. And, just I think that's the most important thing right now for me, for wanting to talk with you about it.
Yeah. Well, and just hearing you talk about the times that, you've made ER visits and stuff because you found your son in a not good way from substances. I'm in a really weird spot because I've heard lots of things that I did not know about. I didn't know
Mm,
his level of abuse, first of all. I did not know
mhm,
that. I would have made much different decisions if I had known.
mhm,
But it is what it is. But
mhm,
hearing the stories that I've heard, we were going to land here real soon in a variety of different ways. And so if I had to choose, this is the way I would have chosen versus some of the other things that could have happened. But
mhm,
what's weird for me is this is the way I explained it to Bryson is when my mom died or
mhm,
she was about to die, she, was in the hospital for 3 weeks with complications related to hepatitis C and cirrhosis. She had esophageal varices and they were bleeding and all these other things. And during that time, we found out she was HIV positive. And I just remember that last day or one of the last days being like, okay, if my life with her, because up to this point, she'd been incarcerated for a couple of years and we were having this beautiful relationship evolution, like
mhm,
just resolved everything we could have, had so much fun together, whatever. But I remember thinking, I was pregnant with my oldest child. And I remember thinking, if she's just going to break my heart again, and now my child's heart with this addictive behavior and
mhm,
all of that, I'm comfortable with this happening now instead of whatever years from now after more and more torture of the back and forth with substances.
mhm,
And knowing what I know now about his level of usage and very high risk activities and the number of ways in which he could die if we were going to have to do all of that and have some other very traumatic way of losing him, I'm comfortable with it happening the way it did. Knowing what I know now, would be much more likely to check on him in the middle of the night,
mhm,
all of those things. But
okay,
I didn't know. And
yeah,
even Bryson has asked me, how could you not? And I'm like, because the way he acted is how I fucking act if I use marijuana.
mhm,
So to me, I mean, I knew like in my spirit, I knew something was off, but
mhm,
I just didn't know what. And so, yeah, I would go in there, but I was afraid all the time. There's been so many times over the last year that I've been afraid to go in his room. Twice I went and said, Bryson, will you go wake Jake up? Like, I think it's time for him to wake up, but I can't make myself go in his room.
mhm,
And I had no idea. And at the time, he was normal, but that was there all the time. That had
mhm,
been there since. like, the first time he got busted with marijuana, and I didn't give a shit that he was using marijuana. I'm
Mm.
all for California sober. I really
Mhm.
thought that's where we were. I mean, I knew there were times he was still using shrooms. I didn't know it was all the time. I didn't know he was using LSD. I didn't know MDMA. I didn't know any of that shit.
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, I would have made different decisions, but something in me was scared anyway. I mean, but, like,
Yeah.
because, I mean, he was just my wild child. Like, you just
Mhm.
never knew what to expect from him. So, it was just such a tense, awful feeling that I was working through nonstop.
Right.
Between that and financial stress, it was just there all the time. I mean, no fucking wonder my neck still hurts, you know? Like, I'm actually really proud of how I've gotten through the last few years with how stressed I was because I was constantly just having to, actually, and I think I said this in the episode with Ashana, I can't remember, but,
Mhm.
I had heard on TikTok some lady that said, "Just ask the universe to carry your worries for the day." And I was doing that so much in the week before he died. I was filled with fear all the time. I mean, like, more than usual, like it was constant. And I think it's because his behavior was a little off, Um, and I just was like, "Can you hold this for me for today? Because I can't live like this." And I did that day too. I was like, "I have to go do Uber Eats. I need to go make some money,"
Mhm.
So, like, I left the house. I mean, he's been dead all fucking day, and I have no idea. And so that day even, I was like, "Just
Mhm.
will you hold this for me for now? Because I don't know
Mhm.
what to do with this." Like, you can't
Yeah.
fix shit with worry. So I was just trying to exist in a harmonious kind of place as much as possible with constant. I mean, there's so many episodes through the last year where I reference him and some struggle that we've just been through or,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
go back through our text messages and it was like just a constant, "Hey Jakey, you okay?" One time with his most recent ex, I don't think they know this actually, but um I didn't recognize this address on Life 360
Yeah.
and his his phone hadn't moved all day, which was unusual for him, and he didn't go to work, whatever. He overslept at this girl's house. I fucking made my husband go over there and make sure he wasn't dead in his car. Like, that's the shit I worried about all the time, and that was just this summer.
Wow.
And and then my fucking husband accidentally locked his keys in his truck while he was, like, looking in Jake's car to make sure but I
Oh,
was
no.
so convinced. Yes. So then Charlie and I had to drive over there and give him a spare key and whatever. Was so
Oh,
stupid, but I did shit like that a lot, like, I was constantly worried.
yeah.
Then there's this part that's like, "Fucking manifested this. It's my fault because I manifested it. I worried about it too much." And then I'm like, "That's not true, Melissa. Like,
Yeah.
that's not true." But those are the types of things that I think sometimes, they come up and I
Mhm.
go I try not to just poo-poo them away. I just go, "Let's talk about the truth in that and the not truth in that."
Yeah.
Like, yes, this is my child. Like, of course I worried about him all the
Yes,
time,
yes.
you know?
Yeah, and one of the things we were talking about before, like, when I didn't realize we weren't and thank you for that, um, is the fear. When Melissa first told when I first found out that her son had passed, um, I, of course, was like, "Well, I have no idea how you feel. I can't I'm not in that situation." And she was so gracious to say, "But you've lived in the fear of that." Um, and I think that that's part of just what I wanted to talk about is, we love our kids so much that, we don't want anything to happen to them.
Mhm,
But like we were discussing, like when your kids are adults and they live with you, it's a whole nother story legally,
mhm.
in terms of agency, just respecting that, your child is now an adult and like there have to be boundaries that are different. Uh,
Right.
so whoops, where'd you go? Hold on. Sorry. I lost the video for a minute. Oh shit. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, yeah, and
Um,
I thought I was as I oh, I'm only hesitating to say this because I know someone's gonna judge me, but fuck them.
yeah.
I thought I thought we were a safe space to make some little mistakes, you know? Like, I thought if your child's gonna struggle with something and they're, a young adult still living at home, what a perfect place to struggle. Like, because you do have a support system here, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And the truth of our situation is Jake didn't fucking talk about anything. He did
Mhm.
not talk about stuff. That's who he was. That's the reason he struggled with so much depression and anxiety to escape from. He didn't
Yeah.
talk about anything. I mentioned that at the funeral. Like, he held everything in. Please say the stuff out loud, whatever it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
Because I thought that, I mean, I was a person who never said anything out loud because I was like, well, what's the point? In my mind, and I'm embarrassed to say this, nobody was as smart as me or any smarter. So,
Mhm.
like, what are they going to say that I don't already know? But that was just me protecting myself from being
Mhm.
vulnerable. So now I just say shit out loud. And guess what? I fucking feel better. I feel better just from having said it out loud.
Yes.
Amazing. I mean,
Yes.
and I mean, because I categorized people really negatively just to protect myself from sharing. But that makes sense because sharing as a child wasn't safe.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, I
Same.
was gonna
Yeah,
protect
same.
myself.
Right.
But, yeah, I think, we didn't know shit. And his friends knew about his usage, but they didn't
Mhm.
know what he was trying to escape from.
Yeah.
None of us did. And I mean, I don't think it was anything different than the things I used to try to escape from. And that's what I was constantly trying to tell him. But then
Yeah.
the things that were making me laugh on New Year's Eve when I was going through text messages were what a
Yeah.
bullshitter he was. He knew exactly what I fucking wanted to hear. I was going through
Mhm.
our text messages and I'm like, you little shit, you were lying your ass off to me here. You were lying your ass off. And it made me giggle because I'm like, how? Yeah, I only have so much fucking responsibility in any relationship. If you're gonna lie
Yeah.
to me, what can I do for you? You wanna
Jake, are
say
you
things to
listening to
make
this
me
conversation?
happy,
I know he's
right?
listening to this. It's like, "I'm sorry,
Well,
Mom."
it's like, well, what can I do with the information that you're giving
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Motherfucker, you were lying your ass off, and that's addict behavior. I forgive it, but that's why I laughed because it was like,
Yeah.
well, no wonder we made the decisions we did because you
Mhm.
were acting like everything was fine, like you always did. I knew things weren't fine because he wasn't saying much of anything for
Right.
a little bit. He was just really high, but I mean, again, I thought it was just weed. Like, I was like, wow, I don't know what weed he's gotten a hold of, but shit. But I didn't know. I mean, there was some hint of the way he acted when I found out last year about abusing Xanax. There was a
Mhm.
hint of that.
Yeah.
But I was hyper vigilant. I'm studying his face. I'm studying his language, like everything. And I'm like, something's off, but I didn't know what, you know? Like, again, of course, I would say there's so many things I would do differently
Mhm.
given the opportunity, but it doesn't do me any good to like lay in that, you
Yeah.
know? And
And that's
so I
when
don't
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, tell me. Finish.
Well, I don't want, when I say I don't blame myself and I forgive myself, it's not because I can't see where as his mother I could have done things differently. It's not that at all. I could have done lots of things
Mm.
differently, but I've been grieving those choices since before he died. You know what I mean? Like not putting him on ADHD medicine as a child, not even allowing him to be diagnosed because I was so afraid. Like just all of
Mhm.
the things.
Yeah.
Um, if the support for high functioning autism had been available then, I would have gotten him diagnosed with that. I was so afraid of getting him diagnosed with ADHD because I knew there was more, but we didn't have the information we have now.
Right.
But I knew there was more. I was like, this isn't just fucking ADHD. First of all, some of this seems like trauma. And my limited understanding of trauma at the time,
Mhm.
I was like, "But what? What trauma?" Like, I knew he had a psycho mom and, like, whatever, divorced parents and whatever, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know. I was like, "What is he struggling with?"
Yeah.
So, it was just hard for me to and finally, Bryson understood whenever I was like, it was also a capacity issue. Like,
Mhm.
I was at very limited capacity. I was living in survival mode from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. So, if it wasn't, like, life or death, I didn't deal with it, and
Mhm.
I ran from a lot of responsibilities during that time. So, I mean, period of years. But yeah, I think I don't know, I don't know, and, like, I know I don't want Bryson to feel hurt by me saying I don't blame myself, but, like, it's, again, not like I can't see where I could have done things differently, but ultimately, it is the addict's responsibility to make different choices.
Mhm,
I've experienced addicts my whole life. I mean, I've already done all of the "that wasn't my fault" shit. Like, it wasn't the friend's fault, it wasn't anyone else, like, you chose to buy these drugs
mhm,
and mix a lot of different shit together. Like, that was his choice.
mhm. Well, I think like we talked about before we were on the show, it's one thing to say, okay, as moms, we might have done things differently. It's different to live in that sense of, oh my God, this is my fault. He's my kid.
Mhm.
So I guess that's something that I want, like, even if you haven't listened to anything we've said, this is really important. Whoever is listening, particularly if you're a mom or a parent or a guardian, like, we do our best with the capacity of what we have in this moment, right? So regretting and blaming ourselves, is a slow death, right? Like, you do not
Yes.
have to do that to yourself. And like Melissa just said, talk about it. Like, obviously we're therapists, so we also believe in that, but like talk about what you're feeling. Like, whoever is trusted and will listen to you that you feel okay about, journal, like, just get it out of you. So I feel like, but what I want to say is, yeah, I've definitely my daughter's funny, she's like, yeah, mom has like a weird guilt thing that she so I do, I have like these weird guilt things, and it's not even anything that serious, but like, let's let ourselves off the hook as moms.
Mhm.
We do a lot, we literally like create other people, whether you've adopted or given birth to your own,
Mhm.
whatever, and it's just, I do believe in the autonomy of the soul, and that's another thing I wanted to say with reference to suicidality. And um, I do believe that the soul decides when it's had enough in this lifetime. And although I don't, obviously support or condone the idea of kids taking their own lives, I do feel that at a certain point, if you're in so much pain, if a soul is in so much pain on this planet, on this earth, that they cannot find any joy or get anything out of being here, like, who am I to say that that's not their choice, right?
Right.
That there'll be a lot of people have a lot to say about that, also from religious perspectives. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, we don't know, because unless you've literally tried to end your life, you don't know what that feels like.
Right.
You don't know how much pain that person might have been in, or just the struggle, like, eh, I don't know what happened.
It said you stopped recording and then you
Oh,
disappeared.
I didn't do anything. Somebody doesn't want us to talk about this, but we are going to. This is important. Um, yeah, just basically the autonomy of a soul to make that decision. Obviously, we're not talking about children, but um, my daughter's friend, who recently died by suicide, had a combination of mental health, substance abuse. Um, she had an ex, I think, that was some aspect of a DV relationship. And I think that
Mhm.
might have been the trigger. So, like, we don't know what's going on in someone's being. Um,
Right. Well, and, like, in my belief system, and I've talked a lot about this, but, I believe in soul contracts, and given the theme of the particular struggles that I have had in life, makes sense to me this was our
mm,
contract. like,
Yeah.
it just really does. I can't know for sure that w whether this was just an act of free will and his
Mhm.
story ended early, or if this was always in the plan, but, like, I looked at his astrology from
I
around the
was gonna ask you
time.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember. It was, mm I wonder if I screenshotted that. I wanted to, but I think I was scared. Let me look. No, I
Okay.
didn't, but I can see his chart really quick, and not from that night, but and I like to believe that it happened at 3:44 AM because he was born at 3:44
Oh.
PM. But I can tell you what, I don't remember exactly what was conjunct with
Mhm.
what, but he was a Pisces
I was
sun
gonna
in
guess
his
that.
8th house. Yeah, in his 8th house, and his north node and his sun are conjunct at the exact degree, and
Mm.
Uranus was conjunct at 14 degrees. Um,
Yeah.
his part of fortune, or no, the
Chiron?
no, part of fortune was in there. It must have been a
Mm.
transit that was happening. I'd have to look it up again, but or maybe yeah. No, I used AstroSeek and that pulled up that chart, but his part of fortune is also in that
Interesting.
house. And it was like conjunct with, there was like a opposite there was like a square to his vertex. I mean, there was so much, but
Yeah.
Neptune and, all the shit that's moving into Aries,
Well,
Aries rising, thank you,
mm,
was right there in his 8th house, conjunct with all of
mhm.
his shit, conjunct
Yeah.
with all of his shit. And I was like, "That makes sense to
Yeah.
me." Like, his north node, like, it was conjunct with his north
Yeah.
node. Saturn, was it Saturn? Saturn and Neptune and something else, and I was like, "Okay, well, that makes sense that it could have been exactly the way it was designed, or it could have been an act of free will and his story ended early." In either case, I do believe this was part of a
Mhm.
design and part of our contract. His specific issues were meant to interact with my life in this way. I find that comforting.
Yeah.
Like, it's just better to me than just,
Yeah. Sure.
just happens and whatever. Um, and I think that's just been the thing that I had asked him for was at first was like, show me how show me how this was supposed to happen like
Mhm.
this instead of just like, we really fucked up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because and it does make me
Yeah,
feel
no.
better. I mean, I'm gonna release any of that mom shit anyway, but it's easier to when I can look at something that concrete.
Right.
I mean, sure, lots of people lived through those transits, but like he was born when all those planets moved into
Right.
Pisces. He was born in 2007, and I had been so afraid. I had stopped listening to astrology updates for about a
Mm.
week because of the way it was
Yeah.
sounding. I was like, "Oh, I don't I well, Jake was born that
Yeah.
year." You know what I mean? Like, there was just all this stuff, and Charlie's a Virgo rising, and it was saying that, something was gonna happen that was gonna completely change the trajectory of her life, and I was like, "Nope, nope, nope." I literally started skipping past
Oh,
every
yeah.
video, every single video. I was so, like, afraid of this one
Yeah.
thing. Something in me knew,
Yeah.
like, so, it wasn't that big of a surprise, honestly. I was just like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess I was right."
Well, I think that, like, I'm a intermediate astrologer, like, I've studied for about 10 years, but I think what I remember hearing in so many of the podcasts and, my friends' posts was Neptune at the final degree of Pisces, right? 29, and in the very last seconds, minute seconds, um, is conjunct Shaat, and that's one of those fixed stars that is undoing, and so
Mm,
there's a lot of intensity around that time, and I do feel that, and they're with you on a spiritual level, that there's meaning in his passing. Like, we don't know exactly what it is, right? But not by accident for sure, and obviously not something as a
mhm,
mom that, you know you want. But having meaning in it and understanding that there's a higher order, can be comforting. Um, But yeah, I was like, "I bet he's a Pisces."
Mhm. And it was a Leo
Mhm.
rising and a Libra
Oh, that's beautiful.
moon.
My daughter has a Libra moon. Yeah.
Really? Well, it's funny because my mom was a Leo sun, I'm a Leo moon, and he was a Leo rising. So, seeing all
Oh,
of our
yeah.
connections, it's very interesting to me, but, um, yeah, I think, I don't wanna trigger anybody, like, if you haven't found meaning in your tragedy, I'm certainly not shaming you. But what I would say to anyone, even before I had this experience, was enduring connections
Mhm.
matter. If you don't find a way to connect with the person that you've lost, for me, daily, I recommend daily, you're going to try to find those connections somehow, and it's going to be that mom guilt or just guilt in general. I mean, if you're listening to this and your loss isn't a child, it still applies. Like, you're going to find a reason that you should have done, could have
Mhm.
done, all of those things. That is just your brain not knowing how to process emotions and trying to protect you. Your brain's going to feed you
Mhm.
fear at all costs to try to keep
Right.
you alive. And so when you can pretend you're in some semblance of control by feeling guilt and remorse and shame and blame, you don't have to feel the
Yeah.
pain. You think you are, but what would happen if you just quieted your mind and just felt the weight of the grief and just said, "Fuck, I miss them so much." What if that was all you had to
Yeah.
say? Sometimes I don't know what the feeling is other than my child is gone. So I just go to like, I miss
Mhm.
him or I'm feeling this in my
Oh.
chest. Like I just try to make a lot of connections with myself and with him outside of my
Yeah.
brain because my brain doesn't have a place in grief. It's trying to keep me
Right.
alive. That's all it's
Yeah.
doing. And so that's been really important to me. And for me, I feel lucky that I feel so comfortable in his room and, that I get to just smelling him feels good. But even like I was in the shower yesterday and I was like, oh, yeah, we're supposed to ask like for specific
Mhm.
things. So I've been like asking for specific signs and whatever. Um, but you can do whatever you can go to the cemetery, you can visit an urn, you can create a special place where you drink coffee
Mhm.
and talk out loud or whatever. Whatever it is, feel connected to this
Yes.
person no matter what, because you're gonna try to find those connections in another way
Yeah.
subconsciously. And I would just rather do it in a way that really actually brings comfort instead of, but I know that for me, all of that seemed really, it didn't really seem weird to me as a person offering bereavement support, but I know now being the person who's doing quote unquote weird stuff, um, it felt weird because that's the way I was programmed to
Mhm.
believe about grief and mourning because my grandma was emotionally unavailable and she was a bitch about grief because she didn't like the way she
Mhm.
felt when she watched you grieve. So she programmed us to believe it was a silent
Mm.
practice and that anything outside of that was morbid or weird. So I just like in real time,
Mhm.
because I was calling myself the weird mom a lot and Bryson was getting agitated about it. Because I was doing stuff that I deemed as weird, or saying stuff that I was worried his friends thought were weird. Like, I don't want to make you uncomfortable by being weird, because it was just shit that I never would have thought I would do. But Bryson was like, "Stop calling yourself weird." And I was like, "Oh, I know why I'm doing
Mm.
that because my grandma made me feel
Yeah.
weird if I had any feelings. And so like I've stopped calling myself weird. But it felt weird. It felt because being vulnerable is still new to me.
Yeah.
Crying openly in front of people, very new to me. Like just crying my ass off. That was something that I always really tried to
Mhm.
contain. And I would say that too. Like crying is not anything to try to stop. It actually helps so much to cry. So
It
much.
releases a chemical, right? I just read about that recently.
Mhm.
I always get the chemicals mixed up, but maybe you know.
I just shared something on my story the other day that I saw. It was
Yes.
oxytocin,
Yes.
serotonin, and
Yeah.
dopamine just
Yeah.
from crying. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, shit. No wonder it feels so good." Because some days, I think because I was exhausted, like the crying didn't involve a lot of tears. But once that started
Mm.
again, I was like, "Ooh, that feels good." And the tears themselves are part of the
Yeah.
chemical release. And it was like, "Oh, no wonder." But yeah, I think to our point about guilt, it's a choice. You have to
Yeah.
choose. very actively to not do that to
Yeah.
yourself because it's just like any other aspect of self-love and
Mhm.
self-compassion, though. You make a choice and then you confirm that decision over and over by just reframing. When it comes up, you go, "Okay, I see you and I understand where
Right.
you're at, but maybe there's an alternative
Mhm.
here that can also be
Exactly.
true," which is I did do the very if you had gone to me a week before and said, "For sure, this is what's gonna happen if you don't do this, this,
Mhm.
and this." Does anybody think that any parent wouldn't do this, this, and this to prevent this
Yeah,
tragedy?
of course.
No. There's not a single person on this earth that wouldn't try to prevent their child from dying. But that's not the information
Right.
I was given. I was living in a fear that I had known for a very long
Mhm.
time. You get really comfortable with just going, "Oh, that's just your anxiety," you know?
Yeah, and I think that I don't know what I think. Um, I just feel like this generation, I would say mid-20s, maybe a little older to down to, like, teens now. I don't know how you feel, most, but I feel like this group of kids and young people have very specific challenges that we did not have growing up. And when I've given a
Mhm.
lot of thought to this, and I do think COVID had a lot to do with it, the missing their milestones, right? Graduations, the markers, that we had, even like senior prom, which I didn't even go to mine, but just things that mark,
Right.
passage, the socialization, right? Um, and the social media, like obviously now countries are banning it under a certain age. We probably should have
Right.
done. Um, but sort of this combination of, and I think one of the huge things is judgment. That was one of my last book
Mhm.
topics for my Letters to Myself series, because I think judgment is such a silent killer of ourselves, of
Mhm.
others, that um I felt so judged growing up that, I'm not perfect, but I try and really my hardest not to be judgmental of others, like, because I know how painful that is, and how it
Yeah.
hurts, and then it sort of then I did it to myself for many years, judging myself, being hard on
Yeah.
myself. So I just turned 59 a couple days ago, and it's taken me this long to just really kind of embrace and accept who I am and, get myself off the hook for all these things that I thought I could control or I thought were my fault. You know, what could I like we're
Mhm.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's so much of the human experience, and as much as I was desperately trying to give all of my kids all of this information that I finally learned myself, you can only learn it by way of
Mhm.
experience, and so I wish I had gone through this transformation earlier in life to have raised my children in a different environment, but I don't think that was the plan.
Mhm.
I think I came across this information at the time I was supposed to because I wouldn't have gone through half of the struggles that I did that make me who I
Right.
am. And I'm grateful for those struggles because they offer more light now than I would have ever received because you have to go through that hard fought
Yeah.
darkness to get to light. You can't have one without the
Yes.
other. And so, sure, there are those people who don't have trouble accessing happiness and joy and peace and whatever. Um,
Who are the I don't know
But
that.
I don't know that they'll ever experience those things
Yeah.
at the same level that I
Yeah.
do or have the same understanding that I do. I don't think so. And and I wouldn't trade their life over
Mhm.
mine because well, I mean, I don't know, I just feel so grateful to have such a solid sense of
Mhm.
purpose because what is life without feeling like you're on a path for something, you know? And regardless of how that purpose has kinda shifted over the years, it was always kinda the same. And as I evolve, so does the purpose, but, like, I always felt very fortunate to feel like I had a north
Mhm.
to head towards,
Where's your
and that's always been sharing my
yeah.
story with others,
Where's your
always.
north node in your chart, you know?
Leo,
Of course. Mine is Pisces, so yeah. Uh, yeah.
is it? I'm kinda nervous because, I'm about to have my nodal opposition, and I've heard that can be rough, and I'm like, "Hey, guess who doesn't need shit else this year? Me.
Yeah, just I guess
Okay,
try
me."
not to look at it because some of the transits are, but try not to look at it that I guess try to look at it like, I mean, listen, you've endured a lot and you continue to grow and help others and sort of be that role model. You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and I feel like, even, like, a lot of the ones that are so supposed to be so scary and nasty, they're usually not for
Yeah.
me since I'm on the
Yes.
path, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need any, like, real course correction, I've already been through that a few times,
Yeah.
so, for now, I feel really solid in my
Yes.
course, but, yeah, I think too having my North Node in Leo does, like, empower me a
Mhm.
little bit to just do the wild
Yeah.
shit, that I would have always been so afraid to do because I'm like, "No, I'm meant to be seen.
Yes. Well, it's so interesting.
I gotta put myself
It's
out
interesting
there."
that you say that because, I had a reading recently and the guy was like, "Well, you're definitely not an extrovert." He's like, "You play it well, but you are not an extrovert." I was like, "Yeah, that's true." So I've sort of had to kind of force myself more. Um, I have Jupiter in Leo, but I don't have it's sort of a
Oh,
it sort of like takes a lot of effort for me. Like I'm like, "Okay, you need to be more visible because I've been told this by astrologers, psychics that, that I have a certain role here. And it's like, all right, you gotta let yourself out there, get yourself out there more like you, like the North Node in Leo. So it's been a bit of a challenge for me, but I try to remember, I think anytime um I get anxious about something, I remember that it's a service, right? What I have to say and what you have,
yes.
what a lot of us have to say
Mhm.
it's a service to others, like, I have something to say that's
That's
important
right.
or that can be helpful. So, okay, let's use that. Once I realized
Yeah, and I think to just stay true to you, how you do that's what I've
Mhm,
had to learn, is that I don't have to do this in any other way than what feels
right.
aligned for me. Like if something really is just feeling that
Mhm,
yuck, I'll
yeah.
do it. But like I think you shine in conversations like
Mhm,
this. So doing a lot of
right.
podcasts, like you know what I mean? Doing your
Yeah.
books, promoting your books. Because that's for me where I was like, because I've been told the reason and I know we've discussed this before, but the reason I've gotten so comfortable with saying, well, I'll say so comfortable, becoming
Mhm,
more comfortable with saying out loud, like, I believe my voice is magic. I believe it's medicine. And I believe the world
yeah.
needs me is because that's what my fucking design says to me. So I would like, okay, if my voice is the magic, like if I have to speak, which I found so interesting, the evolution of like transitioning from writer to
Mhm,
speaker, and seeing how I used writing to protect myself because I was so afraid of imperfect
mhm,
speech. Watching myself evolve there has been interesting, but as I've made that transition, I've had to be like, "But how is this authentic and honoring to my spirit?" And it really is. I'm just posting more clips of me
mhm,
talking. I do not fucking want to grab my phone and just be like, "Hi, TikTok. Hi, Instagram." That doesn't feed me. Now, I will say I was surprised at the solo episode yesterday. That's when I
yeah.
recorded it. I was like, "Oh, I could do this more if I had to." So, I'm no longer gonna stress about
Yeah,
guests canceling because if I need to, great time for an
your
update,
own
here we go,
podcast. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so, okay, great. But I've just, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that once I started posting clips of me talking also, my views,
mhm,
my downloads, everything
yeah.
increased, and I was like, "Oh, you were so right. You were so right about that."
Mhm,
But I'm not saying I'm the only one on the earth with this gift, but my timbre is a
Right.
gift. I was given the gift of
Yes.
voice to speak, and
Mhm.
that I also believe I can say things in a way that everyone in the room can translate to their own
Mhm.
experience. I've seen it happen. I was told
Yes.
that, and then I kinda looked and I was like, "Oh, you're so right, though." I know people aren't comfortable with people, like, verbalizing their gifts to that extent, but I don't give a shit. I'm saying what I think,
Look at this part of
because
woman.
if that's one thing I'm doing right now is not
Yeah.
hiding. So, yeah, I'm just being really open about what I believe, but if I hadn't kinda gotten that first information of like, "Oh, my north node's in Leo," you say, "Hmm, that makes sense, actually." Because I think, the plight of any Leo placement really is, I want to be seen, yet I'm so fucking afraid to be seen, you know? I wanna be validated, I wanna be recognized, but it's the scariest shit on
Yeah.
earth. And this feeling of I was meant for
Mhm.
more. I have a mighty
Mhm.
purpose. And I think about that with Jake too as a Leo rising is, it's funny because I was so religious when he was born. So I did the whole, what's it called? Like, where you stand up in front of a church and, like, commit their life to Christ or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, I
Like a
can't remember what the
baptism
fucking term
or
is called, but
no? No.
no,
Dedication.
dedication. I dedicated him to the
Okay.
Lord, okay? And I remember when I was standing up there, I was holding him and I was praying for him, and I was like, "Jake has the heart of a
Mm.
lion, and that's what I want you to have the heart of a lion and the courage and whatever." And it was funny once I realized what his
Yeah,
astrology
I love
was, because I
that.
was like, "Oh." I was like, "He does have the heart of a lion."
Yeah.
Um, it's so funny how so much of the religious shit I can understand if you scrape away all the bullshit people
Mhm.
who use, things for
Yeah.
evil, what all those concepts actually meant. And I was like, "Oh, man, he absolutely is who, like, I always thought he would be."
Right.
Just this very bright, I mean, he was the
Yes.
sun, like, he could burn you with
Mhm.
his light for sure, but he was so bright.
Yeah.
I think that was actually one of the things I really noticed in him the days before was, like, his skin tone was off, and, like, that's the night before I was looking
Mhm.
at him, I got to talk to him at, like, 1:30 in the morning, hours before it happened, I guess, and, I was just taking him in. I was just being very hyper vigilant and looking at his face and his eyes, and I was just
Mhm.
like, "What is going on with you?" But his skin it was
Yeah.
dull. He's usually very
Yeah.
bright. Everything about his aura is
Right.
very bright, and so, I remember really being taken back by
Mhm.
that, like, "Huh." But it's that Leo shit, man, and I think that's why I was so irritated by the Leos in my life, because my little brother is also a Leo
Oh,
sun.
yes.
It's because I fucking recognized all those traits that, I had in
Of
myself.
course.
But I remember conversations with my little brother, like, where we both were like, "I don't know, man, I kind of think I'm supposed to be something
Mm.
big." And I think that's the thing a Leo has in them. And I told Jake,
Yeah.
like, last year, like, "You are meant for greatness, son. Like, you are, I know that." And not that I don't believe all my kids are, but I was starting to see how all of our paths were so
Right.
interwoven, and I was like, "Ooh." I kn Specifically, I felt this, like, thing with Bryson and Charlie where I was like, "We're going to work together to change the world." Now I see why I
Yeah.
felt that
I
way.
was gonna say, like, I think, in his passing and the beauty of his soul and your experience with his death, like, I'm
Oh,
not saying he didn't shine in life, but I think this is part of his gift, his soul gift to, the world and like, yours and your kids, your other kids, your family. Like, there's just some beauty, and I hate to use that word, I just kinda came in in this experience for you all. Right.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that's the important part of finding the meaning. Like, if I sit in the tragedy part of this, which I'm
Yeah.
allowed whenever that happens, but, like, for me, it just solidifies everything I've been believing anyway. Like, "Oh, okay. Don't stop
Yeah.
now, because then it's all for nothing,"
Right.
you know? But, all the work I did would have been for nothing. All the plans of, making a fucking impact in this world, it would have been for nothing. Losing him would be
Yeah.
for nothing if I stop now. And it's not like I'm full press ahead. I don't have a single fucking plan. I don't know. I don't even know how I'm gonna get through like normal everyday stressors right now. Like I haven't had one because because people were so generous in
Mhm.
donating money, I was able to all my bills are paid for. I got December's and January, so, like, I'm good there, like, I'm not stressing
That's
about
good.
money. His funeral got paid for. We have a little bit left over to order him a headstone, like, I'm not
Yeah.
stressed right now, but Charlie goes back to school next week. That's a
Yeah.
new stressor introduced back in. Like, I don't have a
Mhm.
plan for shit. I don't know
Right.
how I'm ever going to get out of this financial rut I'm in. I don't have a plan for
Yeah.
any of that, but the mission is very
Yes.
solid, and I'm allowing and surrendering for now to the idea that, like, it's being done
Mhm.
for me, and what's coming in will be good. And all the astrology for Aries risings in 2026 is all the
Oh,
good
yeah.
things. And guess
Yeah.
what?
What?
So it's a personal year 5 for me, which is associated with the Hierophant
Mhm.
card, and then I don't remember if I was on TikTok or what, but it was, like, flashing a bunch of major
Yeah.
arcana cards, and it said, "Screenshot Hierophant,"
Nice.
and
Oh,
I was like, "I'll take it, as long as it includes some money too, please. Let me be a wise spiritual leader who makes some
yes.
money, because I would like to not have to
Yeah, they're not
stress
mutually exclusive.
anymore about
Right.
that for a while."
And I also think, like, you know, people definitely rose to the occasion, which I think was beautiful, and I kinda witnessed
Oh my
that
god,
happening,
yes.
and I do feel that, with losing a kid, it's okay and actually important for the extended time to have support and help. So, I don't feel like it
Yeah.
ends, like, last week, and I think that the fact that you could ask, I know, like, 'cause I didn't used to be able to ask either. So, I know that journey too, and, like, anyone who's
Yeah.
listening, like, support Melissa's channel, like, become a whatever you call it, a Patreon person?
A Patreon
Yeah.
subscriber, come on,
Buy some
man.
merch. I'm gonna get my t-shirt for sure. I love the emotionally unavailable. I told you why, right? Because if I wear the emotionally unavailable shirt that you have, maybe people will not come and talk to me like they always do as therapists. Sometimes people just come
Girl,
talk to
you already know, though. You already know we give off that energy of, like, "I'm a
me.
healer." People be telling me the most wild shit, and I'm like, "I was just trying to get this grocery, though," is what
Yeah, but anyway, it is part of
Um,
what I do love that. It's just funny because I was like, "Oh, maybe if I wear this, like, people will not bother me." Not talking about loved
most people
ones.
just laugh when I
Not
wear
talking about
one.
my loved ones, just people on the street.
Yeah, 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 strangers, Sometimes you just wanna exist without being a helper.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and I probably will even start saying more about it wasn't necessarily hard to ask for that help because I was like, "I'm giving him this funeral,
yes.
like, the exact one that
Yes.
we just planned, I don't give a shit." I knew if I asked, I
Yeah.
knew. I knew if I asked, it would happen, and so I was like, "Oh, okay, now we have to ask, so
Mhm.
I'm going to." Didn't expect Colleen Hoover to donate 5,000, but thank you, Colleen Hoover. Um, and so I feel like that may have been a confirmation what you just said about, like, continued
Yeah.
support, because I've been thinking of that same thing, like, it's still okay to say, "Hey, God, I'm trying to make a
Yeah.
living in this certain way right now." And actually, I decided a couple years ago, like, I can't ever go back to the life I had before, and that includes, like, working for other
Yeah.
people. I do contract work for someone where I take a few therapy clients, but, that's not. I don't wanna do that
Mhm.
forever. It
Yeah.
I love being a therapist, but I don't love the system and constraints that I'm
Yes,
in
I
as a
understand.
therapist,
Yeah.
and also believe I'm meant for more. And I
Mhm,
don't know what more means. I don't, but I believe that. I believe this show impacts people. I
mhm.
think that that will grow as well. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with being like, hey, you want to support someone who's doing everything they possibly can to change the
Yeah,
world?
go.
You know?
And do you have, like, the some of my friends do, like, the coffee, like, buy me a coffee thing, or the stars on Facebook, like, these are little ways.
I don't remember if I set that up on my link tree
Yeah,
or not. I know I saw that somewhere and I was like, I should do that.
yeah,
I need to do more of that,
buy Melissa
but it's
coffee.
like one thing at a time, you
No, I
know?
know. These are just thoughts that come in. I always say, like, I think I'd be a great idea person, I just don't know where to do that. I have I have
I
pretty
know.
fun ideas sometimes. But, yeah, and also something I was thinking about for myself too is, like, and you could do this as well, is, having like, I remember one of my favorite astrologers, Lada Duncheva, she's Bulgarian, and she lives here in the States now, but when my mom first passed, I was just like I mean, that's just a whole 'nother story, I don't even remember if we talked about it on the first show, but she basically planned her death. She was 85, she was like, "You know what, I've lived a good life, I'm tired, I just I'm good." So not I won't go into too much of that because that's a long story, but she asked me to be with her for this process. So she stopped eating and drinking. It took her about a week. So I was with her and I honor my mom. Like she was very she knew what she wanted. That's how she wanted to go out. And it was yeah, one of the hardest things I ever did. It was I couldn't work for like a few years after that. I could not do therapy.
Oh, I bet.
You know, and I don't remember what my point was, but what were we talking about?
The astrologist that helped
Yeah.
you after your mom
Yeah,
died?
so I would watch Lada's videos. Like I would just watch all her content. This was like all I could really do. And, thank God my husband, Paul, at that time, he got it. He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just take your time." So I'm appreciative of that. My kids were pretty amazing. Like my daughter was little, she was like 8. And that's kind of how I started just learning. It's interesting how things happen like that, right? Like actually what we were just talking about. Like there's something that Jake's life and death is some gift to you. I don't know what that is, but in terms of your
Yes.
this show
Yeah.
and like the impact on others and what you're meant to do here, I feel deeply and intuitively that that's part of what's going on now. And of course, you're still grieving
Yeah.
your like who the hell knows, right? But it's it definitely like and so for when my mom passed and I couldn't function, it was sort of like in that surrender, I started to learn astrology. And it's something that I love doing now.
Yes.
And even with clients, sometimes I'll incorporate the astrology with the therapy, and it's fascinating to me. Um,
Yes. Well, and interestingly, it was in my mental health crisis that I really started learning about astrology and had a spiritual
mm,
awakening. So, astrology really like changed me, saved me. Like that's when I started learning more spiritual concepts only because I was able to open myself up to
mhm,
astrology. Like someone said, "Well, my friend says that astrology is more like your destiny and not just like
mhm,
personality, like that you get those personality traits because this was a path." Then I started hearing about like soul
mhm,
contracts and things like that. And I was very slow to receive any of the spiritual stuff I believe in now. Very slow, very skeptical,
mhm.
very whatever. And then as I grew in peace, it was like, hey, you know what? What if you're wrong? Who cares? Like, I don't give a shit. These are my
Yeah,
beliefs now. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't believe no matter what that there is
yeah, I
hell.
don't either.
So
I
like
don't
I'm not
believe in that
scared of
either.
that. And there's been too many people who have experienced an
Mhm,
afterlife, and I've had such beautiful experiences with mediums. I do wanna see a medium at some point, but I don't know that I'm
yeah,
ready for everything that could be said, so I'm like, "Okay." But I feel peace
yeah,
about him. I feel peace I feel peace that he left
mhm,
peacefully. I feel peace that he's orchestrating shit, and I wouldn't be there if it hadn't been for, like, astrology and these understandings before, like, even just with my mom.
Mhm.
Because when I wasn't, like, fully sold on all this soul contract shit,
Yeah.
a medium told me, like, "Yeah, so she wasn't able to help you as much on this side as she was supposed to, so now she's helping you from the
Mhm.
other side." I didn't believe that for quite a
Yeah.
while, and then more and more mediums said that, and I was like, "Oh, it makes sense to me now." Now that I have all these beliefs in place, I was like, "That actually makes sense to me,"
Yeah.
and I believe that about Jake. I believe listen, Bryson was having the day he fucking broke his hand, was having a very hard day,
Yeah.
and was very off the charts, right? And I went into Jake's room and I was holding his pillow and I had one of the shirts that I love of his, just holding it on the pillow. And I was just crying, like, Jake, help your brother, help your brother, help your brother, please. Fucking 10 minutes later, Bryson comes right in and is like, okay. And now he's like, and you know what? This, and you know
Wow.
what? That's saying exactly what I wanted him to
Wow.
see. Like, I was just like, show him a better
Yeah.
way
How
right
beautiful.
now. Boom, comes
Yeah.
right in. And I was like, "Thank you." And so I've been spending a lot of time in gratitude for him because I do believe his life did so much. But again, some you can't have light without dark. So like I don't think he could have affected the type of change that he always wanted to. He was always the one trying to just motivate and inspire other people. And I don't think that that can really land as hard as it is now in the absence
I
of
know.
him for like his friends and people who loved him. And so I am spending so much time in gratitude for the things I know he's doing right
Mhm.
now and the things that his life
Yeah.
served. And it does help. It
Yeah.
fucking helps. I mean, that's y'all believe whatever you want. But for me, this is where I'm at, This is where I'm at and it
That's
helps.
awesome.
And I'm just glad I entered this space with a very solid belief
Mhm.
system, with some really good tools. I went my first clients back, they're like, "How are
Yeah.
you?" And I didn't wanna spend too much time on that because I was kinda ready to talk about someone else's
I
problems,
get it.
But I was like, "Well, amazingly, all the tools that I spend all this time teaching you fucking work.
How cool is
They
that, right?
fucking work."
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, "I'm using the tools I give you every day. They're working. I'm doing okay."
It's
And
awesome.
I wouldn't have come to this meeting if I didn't feel ready. Like I started with like my OG
Yeah.
clients, the ones that have been with me the whole time I've been a,
Mhm.
private practice therapist and just have my whole heart. Like I haven't seen any of the
Well,
newer ones because I didn't
yeah.
feel ready. But with my babies, I was needing my babies. I was like, "What's going on with this boy? And what's going on?" Like I need to know because I wasn't in communication really with
Yeah.
any of them. And so I was like, "I need my little
Right.
babies back. Y'all come tell me your problems and let me focus on you for a
Yes.
minute." But they've all laughed so hard because I'm like, "The fucking tools work. Imagine that."
That's a good
Weird.
that's funny because it's and you know what's interesting is, like, a lot of times we think something's for us, right? Like, I do wanna say that I know it might sound a little bit, like, not trying to toot my own horn, but I do feel like I felt called to talk with you. Not just to talk to you privately, but also publicly. And I
Yeah.
thought it was well, it has helped me. Like, our conversations are always very cathartic and very like, I always learn something from talking to you. But I wanna say it might have helped you a little bit too. So,
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
It's always
I thought it
it's,
was
I mean,
for
that's why,
me,
like, you're such a safe space, but also, yeah, I mean, some of this is just stuff I've thought about and not said
Yeah,
out loud yet?
yeah.
So it's good because 'cause we've kinda hit
And thank yeah,
on
and
all the
thank
big
you, and, like,
stuff.
I feel like there's definitely a whole lot more to talk about, and, I love how our conversations just go wherever they're meant to. But, to be continued, and I just honor you so much. I just think that you're talk about role model, like, wow. I just and I'm here, like, however I can support you. I'm definitely gonna be a Patreon of this podcast, and I'm getting my Emotionally Available t-shirt
Oh,
today, so I would urge you all to do the same. Well, love,
I
Melissa.
appreciate you so much. I mean, honestly, if people wanna support me, like, share, comment, subscribe. There is a $3
Yep,
tier where you can subscribe. You don't get any benefits, but it
yep,
does, like,
for
support the
sure.
show. But the $5 tier is ad-free episodes. And then, y'all, my downloads are decent. That $30 ad option is not a bad option. Like, talk to Justine. I ran an ad for her for free for a month, and her Oklahoma listeners
I
went
didn't even know that
crazy.
was an
Like,
option.
like anytime I do ad swaps with people, it
Yeah.
works,
All right. I'm gonna look into.
So I was like, oh, let me just offer a cheap advertising option for people like me who are single owner
Mhm.
operator. Like, no, you're not reaching like millions yet, but there's a decent amount of people who are listening very regularly. That's what my very few analytics, because I don't
Mm,
look too much, but the little that I've seen, like the people who listen to the entire show. They listen to every
yeah.
episode. Like they are very invested in this show. And so if the $30 option feels like something that someone wants to do, it's not a waste of money. I will advertise for you on every episode.
That's
So that's not like for
yeah.
nothing. And then the other options are so cheap. And so I'm not saying give me your money, but I am saying if you're asking for a way to
Mm,
support, those are very important ways to support because I am on a mission here and unfortunately also need to make an income.
yes.
So,
Cheers to that.
well, thank you, Jen. I've had such a good time with you, even though we didn't record for 33 minutes.
Thanks.
No, it's so funny. You were like, and then audience, and I was like, oh, honey, there's not an audience.
Just you and me. That was very funny. I feel like there was definitely a
I
reason
was like,
for
what?
that. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I felt that. Okay.
Oh, for sure. And I was like, this is good. Like just getting to
Yeah.
connect. So then when I realized you thought we were recording, I was like, oh, you are okay with recording some of this. Cool. Okay.
Let's do it.
Because I wasn't sure how much you wanted to include or not include.
Yeah. But thank you so much,
So that's funny.
and we'll definitely talk again soon.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna push stop. Hold on. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.